Right, ladies and gentlemen, our first reader, Mr. John Fewings. For 40 years, John has worked with children and adults across the city in a variety of teaching and training roles. Originally from the south, he now nevertheless feels Hull is his home. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. John Fewings.
Poetry or prose? There's a very fine distinction between poetry and prose. It's such a fine dividing line, no one really knows. You once could tell the difference, because poetry would rhyme. Poets can't be bothered now, they haven't got the time. Can't be asked with lexicons, thesauruses and such, with rhyming schemes, with metre. They don't bother much with much. But me, I'm more traditional. I like a bit of rhyming. I like the metricality of complicated timing. I like the words to skip along with a bit of bounce and bubble. I think poets should be bothered. They ought to take the trouble. Because that's the kind of poetry for which a reader hankers. And if poets can't be bothered, then they're just a load of prose writers. I learned afterwards that that kind of ending, where you lead people up the garden path to expect one thing and twist it, is called an aprostoketon. Technical name, taken from the Greek. The technical name for this next poem is bloody difficult to learn. It begins with J. I saw you standing by the bar, and thought I'd half a chance. Asked if you'd let me buy you a drink, or maybe we could dance. You said your name began with J, but said I'd have to guess. Is it Jane, or Jean, or Joan, or June? Could it possibly be Jess? Judy, Jodie, Joni, Jade, Jessica, Jan, Justine, Julie, Jasmine, Jamie, Joyce, Jennifer, Jill, Jolene, Jacqueline, Jezebel, Julianne, Joy, through the names I sped. But each and every name I guessed just made you shake your head. Jeannie, Jordan, Juliet, Jackie, Josephine, Jewel, Jenny, Josie, Joanne, Judith, Janice. I never knew there were so many. Ah, I thought, this is a trick. Juanita then, I cried. Again you shook your pretty curls. I just curled up and died. I would never have guessed that Jonathan. Now the cat is out of the bag. You're not a bleeding woman at all, you're a bloke done up in drag. Some of the poems that I write, you find that you have to write them in a particular voice. I don't just mean, sort of technical term, voice. I mean in an accent. Excuse the accent for this next one. I picked it up in about half hour's conversation with a Polish mum. It's probably not that good. It's called Pole Position. Anya lives in Krakow. Stanislav in Springbank West. Anya, she has simple tastes. He only wants the best. She says you live in tiny flat. It's nothing but a ghetto. Anya shops in Market Square. Stanislav in Netto. She braids her hair. He primps his curls. She shyly smiles. He chats up girls. She goes to mass. He does not go. He says the UK got no soul. She sends him letters. He sends texts. She longs for cuddles. He longs for sex. She hopes one day to be with him, to hold him in her heart. But as for now, she softly sighs, we are just poles apart. Without You. Years and years ago, back in the 60s, I remember reading a poem by Adrian Henry, one of the Liverpool poets. And I must confess, all I remember about it is the title, Without You. So this is kind of an homage to him, or maybe not, I don't know. Without you. Without you, sweet and sour would just taste bitter. Every street be filled with litter. I'd exercise but not get fitter. I'd need laughing gas to raise a titter. Without you. Without you, Granny Smiths would be less juicy. There'd be no gander for the goosey. It wouldn't be nice to see you, Brucey. There'd be no diamonds in the sky with Lucy. Without you. Without you, seedless grapes would be all pippy. Kids today would be twice as lippy. Playground slides would not be slippy. Summer days would all turn nippy. Without you, there never would have been a hippie or a bush kangaroo by the name of Skippy. No Jeffrey, Bungle, George or Zippy. They'd run out of chips down the locals' chippy. There'd be only one S in Mississippi. I would go crazy, balmy, dippy. Without you. Without you, I'm sure I'd lose the will to live, and my poems wouldn't scan or rhyme or anything, and I'd forget what it was I wanted to say and probably just trail off at the end. And some poems are inspired by places or people. This one's inspired by a particular tree. It's called Our Tree. I went to touch our tree again, as I do most Sundays. It reminded me of joyful times, of hectic, love-filled fun days, the crazy times, the lazy times, the times we spent together. Do you remember that time we sheltered with the sudden break in the weather? I wanted to carve your initials, but your nail file was all we could find. It broke as I scratched the very first letter. You said you didn't mind, but still you chased me anyway. We drenched in the pouring flood. I tripped and fell, I cursed like hell, and trudged back covered in mud. And you laughed, you mocking witch, you silly cow, you crazy bitch. But not a day goes by, not a single day, when I don't crave your laughter. I miss you so much, I long for your touch, for happy ever after. So I visit our tree, stroke its gnarly bark, imagine I hear you speak. You tell me the nights needn't be so dark, the days need not be bleak. And my tearful eyes don't need to see your initials scratched on its bowl, for every letter of your name is carved upon my soul. And listening to your comfort, though I don't yet believe what you say, I don the shroud of chirpiness to face another day, and I'll touch our tree next Sunday.